Hello, everybody. My name is Yaretsi Ortiz, and today I'm going to be talking about the 2022 Horizon Report. So, yes, it's going to be the teaching and learning edition, the implications. So, first, I'm going to be sharing my opinions, my thoughts. So, because of the pandemic, there were some surveys that went out, and they focus on the expanding of the perspectives into technology implementation. So basically, there were different surveys. So they were sent to Mexico, Canada, Australia, and other countries. So I'm just going to specify like the findings that I found. So for the Canadian higher education system, it was predicted that millions of people were going to lose their jobs because of some employees didn't know how to use technology. Because of that, micro credentials programs started to being designed and developed. And now those programs, they target a set of skills that are currently in demand because those jobs are not, a lot of people lost their jobs because the older job market is now developing. Um, so yeah, now those micro credential programs are being designed and they're being developed in different countries. And as for Mexican higher education, only 26 out of 100, every 100 people have college degrees. Because of the pandemic, a lot of them stopped going to college as well because they didn't have the right tools. For example, they didn't have, they're not financially stable to just pay their tuition. And then they don't have the funds to pay for a computer, their Wi-Fi. But yeah, so basically it's just the same problems going on in all the countries. So the Horizon report just shows that information, and at the end it gives you different tips and tools for all the countries to implement. And that's what Mercedes is going to be talking about.
So I read the 2022 Horizon report on hybrid learning, which kind of piggybacks off of Yaretsi, and it discussed the future goals of institutions in higher ed and becoming more available for on-demand learners. So this would increase the on-demand trainings through institutions to support those credentials that individuals are seeking that might not be in a program, or they might be in a program, or they just might need them for their workforce development. So as institutions work towards this goal, this has increased the different modes of teaching, such as in-person, hybrid, and 100% online learning, which reduces the time restriction for learners. Looking at this model, it's been also looked at and determined that seat time is not necessarily correlating with the quality of learning. So the more time you're sitting in a class doesn't mean you're learning more necessarily, which is I thought was a big takeaway for me, because I agree sometimes we sit through classes and they're not as informative as we would have hoped. And so they're also looking how to increase the location of learning opportunities to give increase equity. So allowing people who might not have access, like you said, because they can afford to go to these different institutions, be able to do these online methods, which also just reduce the cost for the institutions and for the learner. There's also looked at the different topics of hybrid and online and in person, and how it also aligns with professional development for the workforce, for people becoming work ready or work readiness, and while they're working, to increase their skills. And this is a crucial piece for employers and professionals. As they are supporting this in their workplace, they're able to be more equitable for their employees and staff. And I really do think this is a good movement for a lot of learners out there, that it's so flexible. And then this one was a little shorter. So the next part, the last part was just, it talked about how this could be the actions could be easier for some learners and harder to design instruction specific to those learners. So those programs that need hands-on learning, this might not be the best approach for them, and they might still have to be the 100% in-person approach, which would make sense. And but they were talking about how they would incentivize those programs by developing those learning experiences that are high impact for in person, and making sure those online learnings are the modes that are easier to be online. I hope that makes sense. Like the ones that really need to be in person will be, but everything else will be online to be equitable and accessible to all of them. And that was it for mine.
So my reading was the 2019 Horizon Report, and it was basically centered around there are 6 technologies that the panelists chose to predict or would predicted to have or would have an impact on teaching and learning and creative inquiry in higher education. So the first one was the mobile learning, which is basically widely used by everybody now. If you have a phone, smart tablet, iPhone, Android, whatever, computer, students and teachers are basically using it to for learning. And that's with like augmented reality, virtual reality, like the games, um, multimedia reality, which is going to be mentioned here in just a few, or mixed reality, which is what it's called. So a lot of the teachers and students are using different types of um, mobile devices for learning. The second one was analytics, and basically with analytics, it was more of like learning about collecting and storing large amounts of data, which a lot of colleges and institutions are trying to find better ways to help with student data and how to store it instead of storing it. I think we did a video about talking about like the silos a couple of weeks back, and now they're trying to figure out ways to store large amounts of data in the cloud rather than using the old way of storing data in the silos, making it accessible, to everyone. The mixed realities, and that was basically collecting or connecting the use of digital and physical objects. So being able to use both digital and physical objects in learning. And that could be anything from using your textbook, or if you have like a hardback textbook, and using it with your online class. So basically making the connection of learning between digital and actual physical objects. Um, Artificial intelligence, or AI, which a lot of people are talking about today, was basically that ability is to uh, completing a task that was once was only used. Humans were basically human cognition. So now you're taking AI, artificial intelligence, and now they're actually doing the same things that humans could only do at one point. And that was a really big topic, because what made me think about AI was in the movie, if you've ever saw the movie Iron Man, Age of Ultron, where Tony Stark basically had an artificial intelligence, and then he wanted to recreate another one that eventually, if you saw the movie, basically took over. So a lot of people are really kind of shaky about this AI thing, because that could happen. I mean, it just depends. The blockchain, which is basically supports cryptocurrencies, which is a big thing now, and helping to store student records of skills learned, so micro credentials, things that you do online. So this blockchain is basically taking that information and finding a better way to store learning. And then the last one was virtual assistants, and that's going to be like your Siri, Alexa, Google Assistant. And this was basically virtual assistants was predicted in the 2014 Horizon Report. So this was even before they did this one in 2014, they were predicting that virtual assistants would be widely used in schools. That's a big pro and con too, because they're really concerned about security and privacy, because of course, I have at home, I have an Amazon Echo, and I have the Q, and you can speak to these items and these devices and get them basically to do what you want. But who's to say that somebody can't hack in and they could get to do what they want? So that's a big, it's kind of half and half with the virtual assistants. And that was it.